Live from New Delhi, you're watching DT India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address Summit of the Future at the UN headquarters in New York. The theme of the summit is multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. United Nations adopts groundbreaking pact for the future to transform global governance. UN Secretary General says the pact opens the door to new opportunities and untapped possibilities. National People's Power leader Anurag Kumara Dissanayake sworn in as the new president of Sri Lanka. And Sensex and Nifty touch all-time closing high amid strong foreign fund inflows. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address in Summit of the Future at the United Nations will be the main highlight on day 3 of his US visit. The world leaders are expected to deliberate on course correction to make sustainable development for all a reality. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh brings us more from New York.
On day 3 of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States, focus would be on the Summit of the Future at the United Nations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will present India's vision on sustainable tomorrow. At the heart of the summit lies the idea that 21st century challenges require 21st century solutions. It is a recognition that the world has fallen behind in meeting its targets, from sustainable development goals to mitigating climate change. Global institutions have failed to evolve and reform. Regional conflicts threaten global peace. Earlier on Sunday, UN General Assembly adopted a Pact for the Future, which the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described as a landmark agreement that is a step change towards more effective, inclusive and network multilateralism. The Pact covers themes including peace and security, global governance, sustainable development, climate change, digital cooperation, human rights, gender, youth and future generations. Given how failed development targets disproportionately impact poor and developing countries, all eyes will be on how Prime Minister Modi articulates the concerns of the Global South. Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
And DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh joins us from New York. Shubhendu, so just to take a cue from your recent report, so all eyes are going to be set on Prime Minister Modi's address at the summit and what India really brings to the summit table. Over to you.
Absolutely, Sakal. Good morning from outside of the United Nations headquarters in New York. All eyes are on Prime Minister's address at the Summit of the Future. Given that the disproportionate impact that the developing countries, the poorer countries, that the countries of the Global South have to face, in that context, what India has to say at the summit becomes hugely significant. The whole idea of the summit came into being because various important targets, whether we talk about sustainable development goals, whether we talk about climate mitigation, whether it is about ensuring peace and security across the world in the context of the regional conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, as they rage on, or it is simply about the reform, the much needed reforms of multinational institutions that have not taken place in the timeline that had been promised. And therefore, the summit comes at a time when global leaders must come together and rethink about the manner in which they want to proceed into the future together. And therefore, India's perspective, Prime Minister's address becomes hugely significant. How does the Global South look at these developments, given that it is so vulnerable to the outcome of these deliberations?
There's a lot of conversations as a lead up to the summit today. The reforms of the multilateral institutions, particularly the UNSC and India's candidature, and many feel, we've been discussing this in our studios as well. Now is the time for India.
Absolutely. The whole driving idea, Sakal, here is that the 21st century problems must find 21st century solutions. An organization, a structure that took shape some 75 years ago cannot be expected to address in an efficient manner, in an equitable manner, the challenges of the present. And therefore, the reform of the multinational institutions, the UNSC in particular, is of great significance. And the call has been made very loudly, very continuously by nations like India and other countries who would like an equal stake in the decision making when they have an equal stake in every other aspect of the world's politics and global development. And therefore, all eyes are on whether and what kind of movement can the United Nations make towards this reform. One understands that these reforms don't happen overnight, but the time lapse that has happened in the period is much longer than an overnight decision. So it's much pending. And therefore, the pressure is also growing on the United Nations and the UNSC to reinvent itself. And if it does not, it does run the risk of becoming obsolete.
Absolutely. And a bit on the India putting also at the stage the main concerns and the challenges confronting the global south, because, you know, the way India under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been seen as a crusader or a leader leading from the front when it comes to global south grouping.
Absolutely, Sakal. And we just look at an example of climate change mitigation. The impacts of it, the adverse impacts of it can be seen in every part of the world, whether you're in India, whether you're in the United States, in the Caribbean, in South America, Africa, Europe, anywhere. Extreme weather conditions are threatening global order everywhere. But now let us look at the way in which global south becomes more vulnerable than perhaps the rest of the world. The Pacific Islands in particular run the risk of drowning in the rising seawater. It doesn't get worse than that. It's a very existential threat, the manner in which climate change calamity is impacting the global south. This is just one example. All these development aspects, SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, by 2030, the international community, world as a whole, were supposed to achieve certain standard goals for the world order in the realm of, say, drinking water, in the realm of access to education, in the realm of access to infrastructure, basic infrastructure for ease of living. But it has not materialized for the developing countries. It has not materialized for the poorer countries. There was a responsibility that the developed country had towards these issues. In climate change, there was a promise of funding of $100 billion a year. There was a promise of transfer of technology. All those promises have not been kept, and therefore, this summit is taking place, and therefore a country like India must, in clear words, assert the rights of the global south and climate justice and justice in possibly every aspect of global politics.
The timings of the summit is also very crucial. We're talking about prevention of arms race and what's happening around the world, the Western War Theatre, and much more. So in that sense, what India speaks is going to be very crucial, because there's also this whole narrative of India assuming the role of peacemaker under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the way we've seen this bilateral has shaped up and the recently concluded Quad summit there, you know.
That's right, Sakal. In the context of the conflicts that are raging on, just for example, what is happening in Ukraine for more than a couple of years, in Gaza. Now, India is often seen as the country which advocates the stand in favor of peace. It refuses to take sides. It says it is more important to work towards peace, whatever it takes. Not just because it is important to restore peace in the region, but the kind of cascading impact any regional conflict has on the global order and the global south in particular. The Ukraine conflict, with all the adversity that people in Ukraine, Russia have had to face in all these years, the impact of it is also felt in the form of food security, for example, in African countries. Now, African countries, therefore, want a resolution at the earliest. Similarly, global conflicts have that kind of far-reaching impact and more adversely as far as the countries of the global south are concerned. And therefore, it becomes hugely significant to look at these conflicts, look at these developments in the larger picture, something that India has been doing. India's advocacy of peace has not just been for peace per se, but peace which is going to be used as an agent, as a catalyst for development, for security of the global south. In that sense, again, India's perspective becomes very significant.
All right, now we can say it's just a matter of few hours when India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing that APEC summit. Many thanks, Shubhendu Ghosh. That's all we have time for you, at least in this broadcast. Of course, we'll get back to you later on our special show at around 9 p.m. But thank you very much for joining us from New York and outside UN headquarters. Thank you. And with a lot of diplomatic action in New York that's happening this week, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar is set to make country's statement for India on behalf of Prime Minister Modi at the United Nations General Assembly during the general debate, which is scheduled on September 28th. The general debate of the 79th UNGA session will take place from September 24th to September 30th. Meanwhile, the world leaders have adopted the Pact for the Future as the Summit of the Future opens at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The Pact covers broadly 56 themes, including peace and security, sustainable development, climate change, and transformation of global governance. The Pact for the Future is the UN's master plan for tackling challenges that lie ahead for humanity. It also promises to accelerate efforts to attain the Sustainable Development Goals, which aim for the eradication of extreme poverty by 2030.
Nous avons ouvert la porte. Il nous incombe désormais à toutes et à tous de la franchir, car il ne s'agit pas seulement de s'entendre, mais aussi d'agir. Et aujourd'hui, je vous mets au défi de passer à l'action, de mettre en œuvre le pacte pour l'avenir en privilégiant le dialogue et la négociation, en mettant fin aux guerres qui déchirent le monde et en réformant la composition et les méthodes de travail du Conseil de sécurité.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Coming up next, Degi claims 6 lives in neighbouring Bangladesh. And Indian Army commemorates Halfa Day.
जल्दी टिफिन पैक करो। राजू, मोबाइल छोड़ो।
अरे दीदी वो बैंक का नंबर चाहिए, रिफंड ही नहीं आया है। मिल गया। अब भी कॉल करता हूँ दीदी।
बिना नंबर जांचे? हाँ? अक्सर जालसाज बैंक की नकली वेबसाइट और फर्जी नंबर से पैसों की धोखाधड़ी करते हैं।
तो फिर सही नंबर?
बैंक की ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट या तो कार्ड पर।
आपने तो बचा लिया दीदी।
काम से नहीं।
आरबीआई कहता है,
सही वित्तीय बर्ताव करे आपका बचाव।
जिंदगी की हर छोटी बड़ी जरूरत के लिए आप जो सपने सजाते हैं, बस उसी उम्मीद को तो हम सहारा लगाते हैं। SIP आपकी सेविंग्स को आपकी खातिर काम पर लगाएगी। आज ही अपनी पहली SIP की शुरुआत करें। अधिक जानकारी के लिए अपने वित्तीय सलाहकार से परामर्श करें। LIC म्यूचुअल फंड द्वारा निवेशक शिक्षा की एक पहल।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिम के अधीन है। योजना से संबंधित सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Sakal Bhatt. India's Home Minister Amit Shah has attended the Bharatiya Janata Party's rally at Yamunanagar in North Indian state of Haryana on Monday ahead of the upcoming Haryana Assembly elections. Speaking at the event, he stated that BJP plans to achieve in the coming 5 years in the state of Haryana.
आने वाले 5 साल में 8000 मेगावाट का नया थर्मल पावर स्टेशन यमुनानगर में बनाएंगे। औद्योगिक बुनियादी ढांचे पर सब्सिडी देंगे। विश्वकर्मा महाविद्यालय बनाएंगे। माता और शिशु का स्वास्थ्य केंद्र यमुनानगर में बनाएंगे। सिविल अस्पताल में ICU बनाएंगे। ओलंपिक की नर्सरी बनाएंगे। और माताओं बहनों, जोर से ताली बजाना, सभी महिलाओं को प्रति माह 2100 रुपये का चेक आपके बैंक अकाउंट में आ जाएगा।
India's Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has said that the number of mobile connections have increased to 117 crore from 90 crore. Previously, India had emerged as a leading telecom market at the global stage. He stated that the Telecom Ministry has put up 7,258 new towers throughout India in 100 days. He was speaking at a media briefing on the achievements of the government in the 100 days since new government took office.
और मुझे खुशी है आपको रिपोर्ट करते हुए कि 100 दिनों में 15 सितंबर तक 7,258 नए मोबाइल के टावर्स हमने देश के कोने-कोने में लगाए हैं.
Nidhi Khare, Secretary, Department of Consumer Affairs, spoke on NDA government's 100 days achievements in an interaction with media. Speaking on various issues, the Secretary mentioned that the ministry has taken many steps to curb price rise of food materials by means of NAFED and NCCF. Among other significant steps, she mentioned price control of edible oils, setting up of quality control centers in Kolkata, Mumbai and Bangalore to check battery and charges of electric vehicles in light of their increasing demands and much more.
Achieved was procurement of against a target of 5 LMT Rabi onion for buffer. 4.7 LMT of Rabi onion was procured by NCCF and NAFED. And now the disposal of onions at subsidized rate of 35 rupees per kg has been initiated from September 5th, 2024. Now we come to the tasks that we completed this year with the help of National Test House, and the most important was unmanned aircraft systems certification.
India's Civil Aviation Minister K. Ramamohan Naidu has emphasized the importance of aviation psychology and managing stress and fatigue to ensure aircraft safety. Speaking at a national seminar in Delhi, he noted human factors as key contributors to accidents, urging continuous upskilling in the fast-growing Indian aviation sector. With over 1,200 planes on order, Minister Naidu called for enhanced training in both technical and cognitive skills for aviation personnel.
See that even in the Western countries, they are also having a specific division of aviation psychology. And it is an emerging space right now. And considering the human errors that have been taking place, I also feel that it is important to have it in our country also. It is in a very budding stage. So we would request the cooperation of all the airliners and everyone so that we can collectively address this aviation psychology.
Amidst the changing dynamics of geopolitics, Indian Navy is all set to circumvent the globe. With its strong message of women empowerment, 2 young lady officers of the Indian Navy would set sail on 2nd October, covering more than 21,600 nautical miles in 8 months. Vishal Barist of DD India reports.
Navika Sagar Parikrama II is all prepared to embark on a long and adventurous voyage with Lieutenant Commander Dilna K and Lieutenant Commander Rupa A. Certainly a test of resilience and fitness both mentally and physically. Indian naval sailing vessel Tarini would sail through all the rough and challenging waters of the globe without any external support.
I do have fear. It's very important that you have a right amount of fear so that you are safe and the boat is safe. You have to be mentally very strong to go through the extreme weather conditions, rough seas, storms, gale force winds. There's no teacher better than the sea.
The 8-month trip would be used as part of military diplomacy by India, and this would be the time for these officers to interact with people in different countries. The Indian Embassy would be playing a key role as Tarini passes through different countries.
It's an important arm of diplomacy, and the Navy utilizes every single opportunity it gets to reach out to people and interact with them wherever we go. Whenever a ship goes anywhere, we do a flag showing, and we have events where we interact with people at the local level. This boat is also going to call into 4 or 5 different ports, as was shown, and they're going to be staying there for maintenance periods, and I'm sure the Indian embassies and others there are going to utilize this opportunity to the maximum possible extent that it can.
The route will take them through some of the most treacherous waters, including the perilous passage around the three Great Capes, Cape Leuwin, Cape Horn and the Cape of Good Hope. The voyage is not just a testament to their personal bravery and skill, but also a celebration of the Indian Navy's commitment to women empowerment, showcasing their spirit and determination. Both the officers have been selected from a batch of 17 aspirants. With 3 years of rigorous training and a sail of 38,000 nautical miles, including Rio and Mauritius, the two lady officers are all set to embark on this adventure. Vishal Baristo's report for DD India.
National People's Power leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake was sworn in as the 9th Executive President of Sri Lanka on Monday. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Anura Kumara Dissanayake for his victory in the Sri Lankan presidential polls. In a post on platform X, Prime Minister Modi wrote, and I quote, "Congratulations Anura Kumara Dissanayake on your victory in the Sri Lankan presidential elections. Sri Lanka holds a special place in India's neighbourhood first policy and vision saga. I look forward to working closely with you to further strengthen our multifaceted cooperation for the benefit of our people and the entire region." Unquote. And responding to the Prime Minister's post, President Dissanayake pledged to engage in collaborative efforts for the benefit of the region. In a post, he said, and I quote, "Thank you, Prime Minister Modi, for your kind words and support. I share your commitment to strengthen the ties between our nations. Together, we can work towards enhancing cooperation for the benefit of our people and the entire region." Unquote. President of the India-Sri Lanka Society and Vice President of the Indian CEO Forum, Kishore Reddy, congratulated Lanka's new president and hoped that Dissanayake would take this country to new heights.
I would like to congratulate His Excellency Anura Kumara Dissanayake as he takes over oath as the 9th Executive President of Sri Lanka. It is for the people of Sri Lanka to choose, and the people have spoken and made everybody proud in making democracy the biggest winner, not just in having a peaceful election, but for a very smooth transition. As neighbors and as civilizational twins of the same culture, we always wish Sri Lanka the best. And all our wishes are with President Dissanayake and his team for a speedy economic recovery and in taking Sri Lanka to new heights.
And let us now try and understand Sri Lankan elections verdict with Dr. Ahmed Muin Faruqi joining us from Colombo. So he has been elected as the president of Sri Lanka, Anura Dissanayake, defeating political bigwigs like Ranil Wickremesinghe. But the timings here is very crucial, taking over when it's already, beleaguered economy. Many challenges up ahead.
Sakal, you see this situation right now in which Sri Lanka is, it's something which is quite unnatural for Sri Lanka as such. Not just because, the economy is in this condition, but also because the political landscape has changed drastically over the last 3-4 years. If you look at, even before the elections, if you go through the 2022's economic downturn, at that point of time, there was considerable anger, there was considerable angst among the people. And that led to a requirement a feeling of requirement within the people that there was a desire for change. That was something which was rampantly present at that point of time. Meanwhile, with the President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who had come forward and taken the mantle in 2020 July, it appeared as if the island was moving towards some sense of stability. However, now with the presidential elections, we have seen that the NPP leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake defeated comfortably both the leaders, that is SJV leader Sajjad Premadasa, as well as the previous president Ranil Wickremesinghe, and has gone on to become the 9th executive president. It is a very challenging time for Sri Lanka indeed, not just because of these circumstances, but also because Sri Lanka is coping through a very bad economic crisis, something which it has been the worst in its entire history of last 7 decades. And at this time, it's also pertinent to note that the IMF deal which Sri Lanka had struck for $2.9 billion, that is in force. And as of now, we have been told that about just 2-3 days back, Sri Lanka had even secured the ISB bondholders deal, and thereafter the government had announced that officially now Sri Lanka is out of bankruptcy. However, the debt repayments will commence in 2029. So as there is a moratorium on the bilateral debt payments till 2028, so the NPP government, which is right now in force, will have considerable time to ensure that the revenues of the government are ramped up, GDP is increased, and take adequate measures to ensure that when the debt repayments start, it will not cause considerable turmoil on the economy. But that is how it is right now. Sir.
Yes, Dr. Marini, he is also in fact promised about renegotiating the terms of Sri Lanka's $2.9 debt that you are also talking about, the billion bailout with the International Monetary Fund. So he has many challenges lined up in, if you look at his, the master plan for the future, economy tops the list. And what about the stability of the government?
Sakal, it's a very big area as of now, as you have mentioned rightly. In the manifesto of NPP, this was something which was laid out in a very, very bold manner, primarily because they were considering that economy is a very key issue in the elections. And rightly so, people had been going through considerable difficulty when inflation had touched a high of 70%, when forex reserves had been down to almost zero. From that point to now, there does appear that there's some sense of stability with inflation now having come down to less than 2%. There is not much which is visible, but still, if you look at the real inflation, if you look at month-to-month inflation, it is definitely still there. Now, considering all this, if we look at the promises made by President Dissanayake, it is first of all, reducing of the income tax levels, the reduction of VAT levels, reduction of pay tax levels. Apart from that, he has also talked about reduction of electricity tariff levels. If I may inform all our viewers here, the electricity tariffs had almost tripled when the Aragalaya movement was going on, and immediately after that, people had to endure almost 3 times to 4 times the total amount of electricity bills at their homes. Not just this, even the petrol, diesel, and various other fuel charges had also been increased at that point of time. So these are all the promises in which President Dissanayake had made, wherein he has talked about taking care of austerity measures to such an extent that it can be easy for the common man, for the poor man. And that is how it is. Meanwhile, at the same time, I would also want to add here that it is going to be a tough task, because not just this, the government has to ensure that the revenues are sufficiently there while they take care of these measures. Debt sustainability analysis of the IMF had suggested that revenue is something which is very key, and that was the reason why cost-reflective strategies had been adopted, especially in case of services like electricity and fuel. Now, if that is reworked, it becomes a very big question mark as to how debt sustainability analysis will be taken forward.
Yes, taking over at a juncture where they're looking at a battered economy and reviving the same economy is his topmost challenge. Finally, one quick question. What is really expected now as far as this relationship with India is concerned under President Dissanayake?
Sakal, you see, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has tweeted, and he has mentioned this, that India is definitely looking forward to working with the new president, Mr. Dissanayake. And as of now, if I have to talk about a little bit of a perspective, over the last 10 years, India's neighborhood first policy has done wonders, especially in the neighborhood. And if we talk about Sri Lanka itself, over the last 2.5, 3 years, if we see, the relations have been at a very considerable height. Especially after $4.5 billion assistance that India had provided in 2022 through various lines of credit as well as currency swaps. And in addition to that, India had provided essential goods such as fuel, fertilizer, medicines, as well as food grains. That has earned considerable goodwill among the Sri Lankans as well as the Sri Lankan polity. That said, it is expected that India and Sri Lanka will be on the same trajectory of an upward movement in terms of the international relations, the bilateral relations. And we hope that the regional cooperation will further strengthen. between the two countries. Sakal.
Well, interestingly, has also hinted at holding general elections, but not really mentioning any timeline. Well, the political stability and economic stability is the need of the hour. We'll have to see how this pans out from here under the new leadership. Many thanks for joining us from Colombo. Thank you. Thank you very much. And still to come on DD India News Hour, we take a break. On the other side, this is what we have for you. Ukrainian president to discuss his victory plan with President Joe Biden in US. And German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's party wins regional elections in Germany.
जिंदगी की हर छोटी बड़ी जरूरत के लिए आप जो सपने सजाते हैं, बस उसी उम्मीद को तो हम सहारा लगाते हैं। SIP आपकी सेविंग्स को आपकी खातिर काम पर लगाएगी। आज ही अपनी पहली SIP की शुरुआत करें। अधिक जानकारी के लिए अपने वित्तीय सलाहकार से परामर्श करें। LIC म्यूचुअल फंड द्वारा निवेशक शिक्षा की एक पहल।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिम के अधीन हैं। योजना से संबंधित सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and before we move on, let's do a quick recap of the headlines at this hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address Summit of the Future at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The theme of the summit is multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. Nation's National People's Power leader Anurag Kumara Dissanayake is sworn in as the new president of Sri Lanka. Sensex and Nifty touch all-time closing high amid strong foreign funds inflows. The Indian Army commemorates September 23rd every year as Haifa Day to pay its respects to the 3 brave Indian cavalry regiments that helped liberate Haifa in World War I from Ottoman rule. A program to pay tributes to the brave Indian soldiers was organized today at the Haifa Chowk in Delhi, where Indian Army veterans, representatives of Israeli embassy in India laid wreaths and paid tributes to the gallant Indian soldiers.
जो गरीबी है, दुख है, कमजोर है, उसको मदद करता हुआ एक प्रॉस्पर भारत भी होना है। इसलिए दुनिया में एक भरोसा बना है, गारंटर ऑफ पीस, प्रॉस्पेरिटी, हार्मोनी, लव, ये कौन हो सकता है? लोगों को लगता है कि अगर भारत लीड ले और वर्तमान में भारत के प्रधानमंत्री उसके लिए नेतृत्व करें, तो युद्ध से बुद्ध की ओर दुनिया जा सकती है।
Shifting focus to latest on Israel-Hamas conflict, which seems to have intensified, with Israel vowing to continue series of strikes against terror targets of Hezbollah until the safe return of their hostages, while urging people to remain calm over the next few days. DD India's Ayushi Patnagar reports more on this.
The IDF will engage in extensive precise strikes against terror targets which have been embedded widely throughout Lebanon.
The conflict between Israel and Hamas fails to end. Attack and retaliatory attacks continue. Tel Aviv launched fresh wave of strikes on terror targets belonging to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Israeli army said that it has struck over 300 Hezbollah targets on Monday. It claimed that Hezbollah was preparing to attack Israel with the launch of cruise missiles from a civilian house in Lebanon.
We are counting to monitor Hezbollah's preparations in the field in order to proactively thwart attacks into our territory. And we are systematically broadening our strikes according to plans. We are constantly using aerial and intelligence means to locate the weapons, destroy them, and remove the threat they pose to the citizens of the State of Israel, while reducing the harm to Lebanese civilians as much as possible.
Israel has vowed to intensify its attacks against Hezbollah in Lebanon until the safe return of hostages, while urging people to remain calm over the next few days.
We are deepening our attacks in Lebanon. The actions will continue until we achieve our goal to return the northern residents safely to their homes. This success also depends on the proper conduct of the home front. Therefore, we sit down, talk and concentrate the activity.
Calling on civilians to evacuate immediately, Israeli military spokesperson said that aircraft are preparing to attack Hezbollah's strategic weapons stashed in houses in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley.
I warn Lebanese residents in the villages in Bekaa. This is a targeted warning for the villages in the Bekaa. The residents near buildings or inside houses where missiles or weapons are stored, move away for your safety and security. You can see the operations we are currently conducting in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah intends to launch these weapons towards Israeli territory, and we will not allow it. Stay away for your own protection. Hezbollah is lying to you and putting you in danger.
Heavy traffic was observed on Monday as some residents flee with their belongings amid Israeli strikes. Since the cross-border tensions began on October 7 last year, the conflict has entered a new phase with intensifying attacks on the shared border. Ayushi Bhatnagar's report for DD India.
Well, Russia has said it will consider Ukrainian President Zelensky's victory plan to end the war if official details are provided. Zelensky, currently in the US for the UN General Assembly, is seeking global support for a just peace and plans to present his proposal to President Biden and congressional leaders. The conflict remains in the spotlight with reports of civilian casualties from recent airstrikes in Zaporizhia.
In light of a recent cross-border attack in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia announced that it would consider Ukrainian President Zelensky's victory plan to end the war, provided that official details are shared. Kremlin spokesperson Peskov mentioned this on Monday when asked about the plan.
We believe that it is impossible to conduct any analysis based on media reports. If some information appears from official sources, of course we will study it. In the meantime, there is a lot of different information, including contradictory information, unreliable information. We are very reserved about this.
Zelensky, who is currently in the US for the UN General Assembly, has urged for global support in achieving peace. He plans to present the plan to President Biden, Congress, and US presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
We need peace on the terms provided by the peace formula, on the terms provided by the UN Charter. We will do everything to achieve that, get weapons to defend our independence and our people, deploy diplomacy to consolidate our partner support and force Russia into peace.
After arriving in the US on Sunday, Zelensky stopped in Biden's birth town of Scranton, Pennsylvania to visit a munitions factory involved in supplying the Ukrainian war effort and signed an agreement. According to the latest updates on the conflict, Russia announced on Sunday that its forces had targeted the infrastructure of Ukrainian military airfields and other sites, while Ukrainian officials reported on Monday that at least 16 civilians were injured in Russian airstrikes. Meanwhile, far from battlefields, Russia and Ukraine clashed at the world's oldest arbitration court on Monday after a long-running case about access to coastal waters around the annexed Crimea Peninsula.
The Sea of Azov is not a lake or a small river delta. It is over 37,000 square kilometers of semi-enclosed sea. The bridge is unlawful and it must come down. The Kerch Strait should be returned to its status before this illegal threat to navigation began.
Ukraine's accusations in this case are, of course, completely groundless. Ukraine's allegations in these arbitrations are frivolous and nothing more than yet another example of systematic abuse of international justice system for purely political purposes.
The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine has brought significant international attention to the Kremlin's reaction to Zelensky's plan. Bureau Report, DD India.
And as world leaders convene for the UN General Assembly in New York, the climate crises across the globe has accelerated with floods, heat waves and unprecedented rainfall wreaking havoc worldwide and also upending lives and livelihoods. Here's a report of the global impact of climate chaos by Nupur of DD India.
Extreme weather conditions are sweeping across the globe, leaving destruction and disruption in their wake. In Japan's Noto region, record rainfall has claimed at least one life, forced tens of thousands to evacuate, and left over 6,000 households without electricity. Central Europe is grappling with severe flooding, affecting countries including Romania, Poland, and Hungary. In Hungary, residents are navigating inundated neighborhoods by boat, while Polish authorities work to repair damaged infrastructure and restore critical services. Nigeria is reeling from devastating floods that have displaced communities and left many without essential supplies. Relief efforts are underway, but countless families remain without shelter or basic necessities.
Everything has collapsed. Even the zinc was stolen by thieves in the middle of night. We just managed to construct a small shed. Apart from this place, we have no other house to stay. At night, we lay our mats and sleep here. We don't even have a mosquito net.
There was, however, some relief in the United States. As summer officially comes to an end, Phoenix residents in Arizona are finally experiencing cooler temperatures, with the end of 113 consecutive days of temperatures reaching 37.7 degrees Celsius or higher. The streak broke the previous record of 76 days set in 1993.
We had the hottest meteorological summer on record in Phoenix. And we broke the previous record, which was set last year in 2023, by almost 2 degrees. So we had the hottest June on record, we had the second hottest July on record, and the third hottest August on record. So the combination of all those 3 months averaged out to the hottest meteorological summer on record in Phoenix.
Back home, India's meteorological department forecasts intense rainfall in southern India from September 23rd to 24, with similar weather patterns expected in eastern, central and northeast India from September 23 to 26. As world leaders convene for the United Nations General Assembly, attention turns to the critical need for climate action, with nations poised to submit their next round of climate plans by February 2025 to meet global climate goals. The focus shifts to accelerating global cooperation to mitigate the impacts of climate change. Bureau Report, DD India.
In other news, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats party has won the regional elections with nearly 31% of the votes. In Brandenburg, Social Democrats celebrated their win against the far-right Alternative for Germany or AfD party. The SPD scored 31.8% of the votes against AfD's 29.2%. It has ruled the state since reunification in 1990.
In großen Teilen und in ihrem Gesamtwesen offen rechtsextrem.
When an openly, in big parts, and overall openly right-wing extremist party in a state scores around 30% of votes, it's hugely alarming for all of us, for all Democrats, for everyone who stands up for freedom, openness and tolerance. Despite all the pride we feel today due to the good result, we must take this seriously. We must continue the debate after this election campaign. Brandenburg only has a chance if Brandenburg remains a liberal-minded and tolerant state.
Auseinandersetzung auch nach dem Wahlkampf intensiv weiterführen.
Chief Justice of India Dhananjay Y. Chandrachud, along with Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, laid the foundation stone of Bombay High Court's new building complex in Bandra on Monday. The plan includes enabling of stakeholders to have access to support services such as banking and telecom. During the event, Chief Justice of India also inaugurated e-Seva Kendras and Bombay Digital Law Reports.
I'm delighted that we have inaugurated today the e-Seva Kendras and the Bombay Digital Law Reports. Let us all understand what the mission is all about. The E-Committee of the Supreme Court is ensuring that we translate our judgments into every language which is recognized by the Constitution. Nearly 2,000 judgments of the Supreme Court, as Justice Oak informed me, have been now translated into Marathi. 37,000 judgments of the Supreme Court since independence have already been translated into English, into Hindi, using machine learning and artificial intelligence.
On to some markets update. Continuing their winning streak for the third consecutive trading session, Indian benchmark indices reached new record highs on Monday, driven by strong support from the financial services sector. The Nifty 50 reached a record high of 25,956 points, just shy of the 26,000 mark, before ending the day up 0.57%. Similarly, the BSE Sensex touched a fresh record high of 84,928 points before closing at 84,864 points, which is 0.45% higher than the previous close. In addition, rallies in realty and auto stocks contributed to the market strength, while the recovery in PSU stocks continued in Monday's session. All major sectoral indices closed in positive territory at the end of Monday's trading session. Let us now take a look at the other stories making news around the world. Well, dengue has claimed 6 more lives in past 24 hours in Bangladesh, while 926 more patients were hospitalized with viral fever. The death toll from the mosquito-borne disease has reached 231 this year. Total of 24,034 dengue cases have been reported since January 1st, 2024, according to the officials. A 30-year-old woman was arrested by South African Police Service as a suspected drug mule. The police had arrested the woman based on a tip-off. Woman was taken to the hospital where an X-ray confirmed the presence of drug bullets suspected to be cocaine in her body. The woman is a Namibian citizen. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission filed lawsuits on country's 2 largest supermarket chains of misleading shoppers about discounts on Monday. The consumer watchdog accused Woolworths and Coles for hiking prices on certain items only to put them on sale and mislead consumers. The move is seen as a pressure measure on these businesses amid the ongoing cost of living crisis in the country. Centrist outgoing Europe Minister Jean-Noël Barrot took over as the new Foreign Minister of French cabinet on Monday. Barrot hails from the centrist Modern Party, and taking over as the new Foreign Minister, he highlighted peace, climate, democracy and prosperity as the major challenges faced by the French diplomacy. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Coming up next, Team Europe clinches 5th Larware Cup with 13-11 victory over Team World. And India ends the wait of a century, wins historic double gold in open and women's category at 45th Chess Olympiad in Budapest.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium, we'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
जिंदगी की हर छोटी बड़ी जरूरत के लिए आप जो सपने सजाते हैं, बस उसी उम्मीद को तो हम सहारा लगाते हैं। SIP आपकी सेविंग्स को आपकी खातिर काम पर लगाएगी। आज ही अपनी पहली SIP की शुरुआत करें। अधिक जानकारी के लिए अपने वित्तीय सलाहकार से परामर्श करें। LIC म्यूचुअल फंड द्वारा निवेशक शिक्षा की एक पहल।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिम के अधीन हैं। योजना से संबंधित सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Let's talk about chess now, where India achieved double podium finish, ending the wait of a century. With this, India not only emerged as the world champions, but also proved that this is actually the golden era for Indian chess. Here's a report that takes deep dive into how India created history and how the nation celebrated this victory.
The wait of a century is finally over as India scripted history in the world of chess, a sport which is deep-rooted in India's historical sporting landscape. On 22nd of September, it was the Indian flag that was hoisted high with pride in both men's and women's category as India delighted the fans with double podium finish in Budapest. GMs D. Gukesh, Arjun Arigaisi and R. Pragnananda all won as the Indian men wrapped up victory in 45th Chess Olympiad with a statement 3.5 to 0.5 victory over Slovenia in the last round. Whereas in women's category, Team India clinched gold for the first time after convincingly beating Azerbaijan by 3.5 to 0.5. They saw Kazakhstan on equal match points from the outset and tie their match with the US team. Congratulating the entire Indian chess contingent, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that every Indian is proud of her chess players. Union Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia called it as the golden era for Indian chess. He tweeted, and I quote, "Golden era for Indian chess. India makes history with the first ever gold at 2024 Chess Olympiad. Congratulations to our women's team, Divya Deshmukh, Harika Dronawali, Vaishali, Vantika and Tanya Sachdev. India's chess excellence shines globally." Union Sports Minister also congratulated the men's team. He wrote, and I quote, "India makes history in chess. Huge congratulations to our men's chess team, D. Gukesh, Arjun Arigaisi, R. Pragnananda, Vidit Gujarati and Hari Krishna for winning gold at the Chess Olympiad. This is India's first ever win in this prestigious event. Our chess heroes have made India proud, showcasing their brilliance and hard work on the global stage." Well, this was the second time a country won gold in both sections since the Soviet times. The Soviet Union had a dominant run of double golds between 1980 and 1986, a streak that was interrupted by the Hungarian women's team led by the Polgar sisters, who claimed gold in 1988 and 1990 ahead of the still existing Soviet Union. China did so in 2018, and now India scripted history in 2024 with double gold medals at the international event. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, Carlos Alcaraz's straight-set win led Team Europe to win at the Lever Cup in Berlin. Team's top-ranked player Alcaraz defeated American Taylor Fritz, securing 3 points to secure 5th Lever Cup title for Team Europe. Team Europe started the day at 4-8 deficit before making a comeback courtesy of Alcaraz and Casper Ruud, who triumphed in the day's opening doubles match over Ben Shelton and Francis Thioff. Though Daniil Medvedev lost a tough battle against Shelton, local hero Alexander Zverev kept Team Europe's hopes alive by squeezing out a win over Tiafoe in another Lever breaker. And some important news related to India's efforts at being all prepared to tackle the worsening air quality in Delhi and its vicinity as the winter season is approaching. Dr. P.K. Mishra, Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, chaired a high-level task force meeting today at the Prime Minister's office to assess the readiness of stakeholders in addressing the issue of deteriorating air quality in Delhi and nearby areas, particularly as the winter season approaches. The meeting focused on evaluating ongoing efforts to tackle pollution from various sources, including paddy, stubble burning. And Dr. Mishra also emphasized the critical importance of strict and timely implementation of the Graded Response Action Plan by all relevant agencies to mitigate worsening air quality during winter months. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. So we are back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. On the other side, my colleague Munmun joins you with a special broadcast tracking Prime Minister Modi's historic visit to the United States of America. Stay with us.